FXGoodway is one of the simplest EAs I've set up and used in a long time. In this video, I'll show you how I'm using it on a Xrading.com funded account and what we recently found to be a very effective way to reach the 20% target much faster. And one more interesting fact we found out is that most people watching our videos aren't actually subscribed. YouTube simply recommends the videos to you. If you haven't yet, please check and subscribe. It's free, takes one click, and helps us keep testing EAs, running live accounts, and sharing everything we learn with you. Thank you for your support. Let's get started. So let's start by looking at the VPS and the platform where I have this currently trading. And what you can see is that it's been trading since the end of September last year. And there's a lot of trades, right? A lot of trades. But interestingly, what we can look at is that initially you can see that our lot sizes were quite big and we were trading on the Kiwi CAD. So you can see that the lot sizes started at 0.13 and then the recovery trades were 0.26. Later on, because we had the AutoLots, which I'll show you in a second, it started trading bigger, and we then had it starting at 0.2 and the recovery trades were 0.4. There was one that was 0.8. Let's see if we can see anything bigger. No, that was the biggest one. However, what we realized afterwards, and this is what I'm going to show you, is that it is much more effective and much better to trade this low risk. So you can see that here our lot sizes were decreased to 0.01 with the recovery trades at 0.02. So let's take a look at the settings and I'll show you what we mean. Okay, so what you can see is that there are very few settings, and this is what is great about this EA. It works very well and it really doesn't take a lot of setup. So you can see that right now we have it at 0.01 lots and we have auto lot set to false. If you set this to true, what it will do is it will actually look at this number, which is our risk, and here we've set it to 10 because it's a Xrading.com account, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the video. But what will happen is that it will set the lot sizes according to the risk that you've set in the account. So by setting it to 10, what we're telling it is that we want to maintain our risk so that our max drawdown does not exceed 10%. Our max equity drawdown does not exceed 10%. And what it will do then is it will open the size of the trades and the number and the frequency and the size of the recovery trades to stay within that. However, if it gets close to that 10%, it will close all positions. So the worst that can happen is that you would lose 10%. However, on the back test, we found that trading it with 0.01 is better, and what that will give us is essentially 1% a month. So I'm going to put that back to false. What we can also do is take a look at the FX Blue track record. And what we can see is that since we started trading it, it's been doing really well. It's been growing steadily, and I have intentionally left the equity because I want to show you something. You can see that for the most part, the equity stays really close to the balance line. There's one or two small recovery trades that needed to take place, but generally speaking, this is a very steady EA. Now, there was this little period of drawdown here. However, as it is a Xrading.com account and we've got quite a big cushion, so we have, as I showed you, up to the 9,000. You can see that the lowest point that it reached was 10,200. So we're very, very far away from our 10% static drawdown. And as you saw, it actually recovers and it has been trading very well since then. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you why 1% per month is actually the perfect target. Now, just to put it into a little bit more context, let me show you how Xrading.com works, and then I'll explain to you the logic behind the 1%. So if we take a look at Xrading.com, this is the Xrading.com website, and if we go down a little bit, what we can see is that there are a number of options. So you can start with $1,000, $2,500, or $5,000. So let's take a look at the $1,000 and it'll all make sense. So basically what happens is that you pay $1,000 for an account, and then you get incubator amounts in the amount of 9,000. So you have a total balance to start trading with of 10,000. Okay. Once you reach 20% of profit, which in this case is 2,000, you get an 80% profit split, which gives you $1,600. All right. The only limitation here is that you have to stick within the 10% drawdown. However, this 10% drawdown is static. So what that actually means is that no matter how big your account grows, you have to always keep it above $9,000. So while you initially start with a 10% max stop loss, as your account grows, that cushion gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'll show you now why that is important. So let's take a look at the maths behind this, and you'll see why 1% is enough. So I've prepared a little graphic for you that will explain it very easily. So in stage 1, you saw we've got the $10,000 account. The account cost is $1,000. We've got a static drawdown of $9,000 as I explained. So we're going to break this down into 2 phases. So in phase 1, we are trading with 0.01 lots and we are looking at 1% per month. And phase 1 should last about 5 months. So after 5 months, our account should be at 10,500, aiming for the 1% per month. But this is where it gets interesting. This is when we switch gears and we're going to phase 2. We're going to double our lot sizes to 0.02 lots and we're going to aim for 2% per month, right? Because we've just doubled the lots, we're doubling the risk, so our profit should be double as well. And we're going to do that for 7 months. That's the goal. Now keep in mind that we can do this simply because we have the static drawdown limit, so we just have to keep our account above 9,000 as I explained earlier. So we have a little bit more room for drawdown, so we can trade a little bit riskier. Now in this case, what we are aiming for is the 12,000, the 20%. So 0.20 lots at 2 per month times 7 months will bring us to that 20%. 20% growth is $2,000 in profit in the account. After the 80% split, we get a $1,600 payout. $1,600 minus our initial cost of the account, which was $1,000, gives us $600 in net profits. That's the money that we can withdraw, and that is our money. All right? Which means that even though we're only going for 1% per month, we've actually made 60% in 12 months because we're not looking at the size of the account. What we're looking at is the cost of the account. We traded on a 10K account, but it only cost us $1,000. We've made 600, so we've actually had a 60% return in 12 months. However, this is where it gets even better. Once we have passed stage 1, we move on to stage 2. Now here, if we look at the graphic again, you'll see that once we get to stage 2, we don't have to put in an initial deposit because we've already paid for the account. The next stage is actually free of charge, so you don't pay more. So you get $19,000 in incubator funds plus the $1,000 you paid on stage 1, so you have $20,000 to trade with. Here, our static drawdown is a little bit bigger because it's a bigger account, so we have $2,000, which means that we only have to keep it above $18,000, right? Our profit target is $4,000. Our profit split is 80%, which means that at the end of it, we're going to get $3,200. Let's go back to the graphic and look at stage 2. So on a $20,000 account, our account cost is 0, as I said. Static drawdown is 18,000. We're going to just keep it above 18,000. So in phase 1, we're going to do the same thing we did on stage 1. 0.01 lots times 1% profit per month, which is what we're targeting for the first 5 months, brings us to 21,000. Then phase 2, where we increase it, 0.02 lots, we're going to aim for 2% per month. We're going to do that for 7 months, and that brings us up to the $24,000 target. So we've got 20% of growth. We've got $4,000 in profit. We've got 80% profit split, which means that we can now withdraw $3,200, right? So that's $3,200 in net profit. And looking at what we actually make after both stages, you can see that with the $1,000 invested, we've made $3,800. So our total return on investment at this stage after 2 years is 380%, which is huge. And this will then continue stage to stage. The only difference here is that our profit split lowers. So as you get to stage 3 at 70%, then stage 4 is 60%, and stage 5 is 50%. So we're making a little bit less, but the accounts are so much bigger that the actual profit in dollar terms is massive. So you've got the formula. I'm going to leave it up to you to work it out if you want to, what you could make in stage 3, 4, and 5. Now let's look at the EA that we're talking about in this case, and it's the FXGoodway. You can see that there are 2 versions. So you've got the dollar Swiss, and then you've got FXGoodway X2, which is the next version, which is the euro dollar. It costs $275 for the EA. So you should factor that into your costs if you are going to be trading with this EA. But even so, you're still making a very good return on investment. Let's take a quick look at the vendor's record. Now, as I showed you, we are not trading with the AutoLots. We are trading fixed lots. However, the vendor is trading with the AutoLots, and obviously slightly higher risk because this is a live account. So he doesn't need to stay within the 10% drawdown limit. He can go much lower. Of course, if you've watched our videos, you know that we always stick to 50%. That is our drawdown limit on a live account. You can see that the vendor started this account in November of 24. So it's a little over a year, about a year and 3 months. And he's made almost 500%. However, what is important to note here is that if we look at his max drawdown, he has had a max drawdown of 36%, and it looks like it was here. This was recently, I guess, where there was that big move on the dollar. A lot of our accounts suffered drawdowns as well. However, you can see that it has recovered and it is doing quite well. Now let's go back to our VPS and we'll put into practice exactly what I just showed you. So what you can see is that our account is currently on just under 10,500, right? 10,458. It's close enough, so we're going to do the risk. Now, importantly to note is that this obviously includes some of the bigger trades that we had, but even so, it doesn't really matter. We are going to implement the risk control method that I showed you, and we're going to increase a lot. So we're going to do that very easily. We're going to just go to the expert advisor. We're going to go to the properties, and what we're going to do here is we're going to change our lots from 0.01 to 0.02. As I said, we are aiming for that 20%. So hopefully within the next 7 months, we will reach it and we can request our first payout and then move on to stage 2. So there you have it. Proof that 1% per month, then scaling up while controlling risk is a good approach and one that can be very profitable. And with an EA that's as simple to set up and trade as FXGoodway, this really is suitable for beginners and experienced traders. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'll leave links to trading.com, FXGoodway, and the track records to all of our accounts in the description if you'd like to give this approach a try. And if you have multiple accounts and want a way to track them easily and for free, check out my review on the brand new Show My Trades app right here. As always, thanks for watching, trade safe, and I'll see you soon.